I feel like I'm at like a hockey game or something, like it's an intermission.
Terrible intermission to Zambonis on the ice. Oh, man. Go grab your popcorn. We need you to get set up with a scene changer. First topic, and I'll just get us listed and going on that. If I could bring up our correct space here, we're actually going to be talking about Lego Star Wars. All right, I actually forgot that was first.
In no particular order is this week's news, but that's a good place to start, and we can kind of get into it. So welcome to the second half of our show, Xbox Talks, our normal show that we record usually on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. This week, due to the holiday, we missed our normal recording time, so we're happy to join you all tonight. Let me just lead off, and I just kind of repeat myself if you've been sticking with us and you're in the live audience. You can come on up and share your thoughts. You'll be recorded and distributed on the podcast and on YouTube, where we put the show out there. In addition to our live audience, we have a lot of people that are listening through downloads and through other outlets on Spotify, on their Alexas, or right in the browser and inside the subreddit here. So we appreciate everybody that listens, no matter how they find us, but we especially appreciate you that are joining us live today, because that's what makes this special. So if you heard any news in the last week that you want to talk about that maybe we're not speaking of, it's okay. You can come on in and interrupt us. We'll bring you right on up, and we'll jump in on a topic that's of interest to you. But as Mikey was saying, we're going to start off this week by talking about Lego Star Wars. And the big news was that Lego Star Wars sold almost as much as Elden Ring in its first week of launch. I'm playing Lego Star Wars. I believe Ivan is playing Lego Star Wars. Mikey, did you pull the trigger on that one?
I didn't. I have too many other things to play already. It'll be something that I come back to when it's on sale. It'll be a co-op game that I sit down and play with my fiance. I'm sure of it. But she's playing through Halo with me in preparation for Halo Infinite co-op. So we haven't had time.
No, and I actually was explaining this to Kevin last week too. I think it's a great game to wait for it to go on sale. If you're not going to play it right away, like, you're not going to miss out on anything by not playing it. These games usually go on sale pretty quickly, sometimes as much as half off within like a month of launch. And we can't say it's going to be the case here because this is the first next gen Lego, if you will, but new gen. I know some people get irritated by that, but anyways, it will be interesting to see how quickly that happens, especially if it's selling well. But I've had a good time with it. It's been called a walking simulator, and I don't think that is very far from the truth. It's a little boring at times, but if you're a Star Wars fan, just going through and seeing all the cutscenes and all the familiar characters, it makes it a very enjoyable ride. How far did you make it into it, Ivan?
So I went with the, if you remember, I was going from 1 through, like, all the way through pretty much. But then I got it on Xbox later because I ended up really enjoying it. So I was like, oh, I'm going to double dip this game. So then with the second time around, I went with the original trilogy, then to the prequels. So I'm basically now in the sequel trilogy, halfway through that. And yeah, I can see the walking simulator thing, but I still think that that's a little, I guess, a little far from the truth, because it's just the way the game paces itself, where, like, if you decide to play through a story, it, like, sort of, like, puts you, like, in almost like a hallway kind of thing, where you can't, like, oh, I can use a bounty hunter for this thing, and you can't because you're in the story version. It's like, that's where it's weird for me, where it's like it really encourages you to go back during free play. So, I think a lot of my time was just spent running around looking for Kyber bricks that I couldn't use yet because I wasn't in free play.
Yeah, it's a game that encourages you to explore, and once they start you in one direction of a level, you immediately turn around and go the other direction because you know that there's going to be something hidden back there. So collectibles and unlockables are a big hook of the game. It was really surprising to see it sell so well, though, so it's really good news for Lego and Star Wars fans, and for the franchise as a whole. I can't wait to see what they do next, actually, because it's a really approachable family game, couch co-op. It has a lot going for it, even though it might not be hardcore per se, So speaking of games that are a little more hardcore, We got some Cyberpunk 2070 or 2070. What the heck? I can't even speak today.
You
Cyberpunk
want me to
news.
say this one?
Please do.
Cyberpunk 2077.
You are hired. It's been reported that it sold over 18 million copies, which is some flop, as many gamers continue to try to throw dirt on its grave. It did just fine. Now, if that burnt any goodwill with CD Projekt Red moving forward, maybe. But you know what? I bet you everybody's still going to be out there to buy the next Witcher installment. I don't think it really hurt them that badly, and the game has obviously improved since launch. We also got confirmation that there's going to be an expansion pack, but it's not going to arrive till 2023, which is quite a ways off if you ask me, but I guess they've had their hands full trying to improve the base game. So, did you guys play through Cyberpunk? Are you excited for the expansion?
I'm actually playing through it now for the first time, and I'm probably about a quarter of the way through. And I'm doing a lot of the NPCD events and all that stuff, and I'm doing a lot of the side quests. So it's taking me some time to get to the story, and it's not The Witcher at all, but I like it for what it is. It's a departure from other games. It you know, and it feels, the one thing I don't like about it is once you kind of get into your build, you're kind of stuck into it because you can't redistribute your attributes. You can only redistribute your perks. So it's like, well, you don't want to mess up your attributes at all, because if you mislabel them at the end, you'll miss out on perks that can make or break what you're trying to do. Especially with me, because I'm actually playing on a harder difficulty. So it's a little worrisome if I put too much into body and I should have actually gone to cool, or so far I'm dumping into reflex, and I'm building what some would call a ricochet build, if anyone's familiar with that. But I'm loving it. It's a strong departure, but the storylines are there. And I really love I finished all the Delamain stuff, and you come across, is it okay to talk about side quests and spoilers at this point? I feel like it is.
I think we've reached the point where where we're free to talk spoilers. I don't know exactly what that line is, but it's been out for a long time.
Yeah, and the Delamain quest line, there's this AI taxi cab, and you have to go out and reel in these other AIs. And it's fun to do because you come across so many different, like you come across a suicidal taxi, you come across one that's literally GLaDOS, and she actually says the cake is a lie. And it's essentially Delamain's children, this AI that's running the taxi cab. And then you come across this interesting point later on that just shows up, and the children are trying to kill him or take over. So you finally get to this point where you get to either decide that the original Delamain lives or all the children live. And based on what you do, after I read, you get, no matter what, you get a taxi, and it's populated by whatever your choice is left. That to me and that's just a side quest, stuff that continues to give to you, and continues to add to your experience. Side quests like that are what I loved about Witcher 3. So I'm glad to see stuff like that in Cyberpunk, and that's really what makes the game for me. I don't know how other people feel. I know initially I didn't like playing it because I loaded it up and it was in 720. Well, it wasn't in 720p, but it looked like almost an Xbox 360 game, and I'm like, ooh, this is washed. So I waited for the next gen patch, and that's why I'm playing it now. By the way, I beat Elden Ring, no big deal.
I was going to ask you, like, that's coming off of Elden Ring. Is it a big contrast? Is it enough of a different style where you feel like you're experiencing something new, or is it kind of a little grindy still? Like, how's the comparison?
I haven't hit any walls yet. Well, there was one. It feels level gated at some points with like the psycho missions, because I started just trying to do all those, and I came across one that very clearly was meant for a higher level. I was not touching it. But I haven't felt like I need to grind, and it's been pretty smooth sailing. It's been a lot more laid back experience from having to watch around every single corner, see where you're trying to look.
Seek help.
You get a noise in your headset that goes, "Somebody sees you," not, "Well, you just got one shot, died screen, game over." And I've died, but it's a far more laid back experience. I'm enjoying the story, and I'm eager to see what exactly happens with you and Keanu. Johnny Silverhand, sorry, I shouldn't call him Keanu Reeves.
Yes, Johnny Silverhand. I think one of the big things that I think is differentiates the two games is that Cyberpunk has a lot of story and a lot of characters, and Elden Ring is kind of a quiet game, even though it is noisy in its own way with all the combat and that. As far as speaking to people and interacting and getting that kind of personalization with the characters, like it's refreshing, I'm sure, to be able to have a conversation and relate with characters rather than just getting pointed in a direction and no help and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would. If people like story-driven games, Cyberpunk is definitely good. Something I wanted to touch on was that if you contrast this, so 18 million sounds like a lot. Um, I could be corrected, but I believe I also read that Witcher 3, and it's been out a lot longer, has actually sold 40 million. Cyberpunk has had a very slow start. I think initially it sold somewhere between 12 and 14 million, and this last 4 to 6 million has been over the last 2 years. So it's a lot slower, and I don't think, unless whatever this expansion is, remember way back when they were talking about the game, it was supposed to get multiplayer. So I don't know if that's the expansion could really make this game bigger, but so far I don't see it reaching those Witcher 3 numbers. Even though it's sold well, it's far below what they thought it was going to sell.
Well, it was really hamstrung out of the gate. Obviously, we know the reception was not great. So, other than day one sales, those secondary sales really slowed down. And then we also had the free refund periods. I think Xbox and PlayStation both offered
I was
free.
one of them.
Yep, free unconditional refunds. They're just like, we know that there's some problems, and we'll take the loss on this one. So you have to wonder how many of those people didn't come back, and how that hurt the launch of the game overall. But maybe it's a game that kind of grows with time. We've seen this with No Man's Sky and several other games that released in a bad state, and a developer just poured their heart and soul into it and brought it to a place where people enjoyed it again. But there's obviously a lot of backlash out of there. Anytime somebody posts about it in the subreddits, there's at least a few comments where it's just, this game is trash, why is anyone playing it, their studio sucks, and a little bit of that is the internet being the internet. But they did definitely dig a hole that they have to get out of, so it will be interesting to see if they can do that. Talking about other games that might be in a little bit of trouble, we can get into Halo Infinite a little bit, and there was a headline that came out this week that the player count on Halo Infinite dipped below the player count of the Master Chief Collection on Steam. So there's a bunch of caveats to this, and first of all is that this is just Steam players. A lot of people that are playing Infinite are obviously on console or using the Microsoft game launcher, so those don't count as Steam players. We also have the fact that Master Chief Collection just had a huge update, and Infinite hasn't had any updates, and definitely a knock against them. But we did get a lot of news this week about some things coming down the pipes, so obviously when interest picks back up in a game when there's new content, and I imagine Infinite's numbers will pick back up once Season 2 starts. Obviously, they have a long way to go. Are you guys going to dive back in on Halo? Are you going to check out Season 2?
I don't know if I'm going to be honest. I mean, I did the campaign. They're going to basically just... pretty much what I want from a Halo game is already a Master Chief Collection, and the fact that they keep updating that, it's sort of pushing me into that camp. Like, maybe it would be better for them to sort of split their time better so that they can just focus on Infinite, whatever team, and have that in their own camp, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, basically, I just want more maps, and I don't think that's going to come in just one season. I'll probably return to it in a year or something, where there's just so much more than, look at Fortnite, for example. That game, every time, you look away for a week and it's a totally different game, So
yeah, right. They're taking out building and new characters, and they're throwing content all the time at it.
Yeah, so I mean, I, as much as I like the gameplay of Halo Infinite, it's something that's going to get old fast. So even if Season 2 comes out, and if there is even a map in Season 2, we're going to go right through it. You know what I mean? It's we're going to get bored of playing that one new map or two new maps. I don't know, bring some legacy content over. Give us Halo stuff again, Action Sack or whatever. Something, because it's really just hard to play, at this point. At least for me, which is sad because the gameplay is good.
Okay. So where do I start? First of all, before I become the Debbie Downer, although it seems like everyone's kind of Halo to me, especially Halo Infinite, has some of the tightest
Am I
gameplay
dead
out
already?
right now. And I
I
see
must be. I
Grim
mean,
nodding his head. We know it. It feels so good. It's so satisfying to get a perfect BR, like 1, 2, 3, body, headshot, boom, he's dead. It's a great feeling. But to do it on the same 4 maps, there's nowhere else to play. And to play the same game modes over and over. So that's what Halo Infinite is starving for. And I'm not surprised to see Master Chief Collection move past it. In Master Chief Collection, you had to buy. Halo Infinite's free, so that's even worse. Granted, a lot of people, could also be playing through the Xbox app. A lot of people, won't necessarily show up on that Steam chart. Who knows what the numbers are. Um, but I expect Halo. It needs to have a far successful Forge. Forge needs to come out soon, because one of the livelihoods of maps and inside these playlists has always been Forge creators. They always bring out the best maps, and they even show up in the ranked playlists. They'll always show up because these maps are so well done by the community. We need to have that. We need to have people be able to create maps, give us, puzzle maps, give us weird things. We need things like Griftball. We need, Grim brought up Action Sack. We need that stuff. We need snipers, ranked, social. We need, team SWAT. We need all these, and I'm not even sure exactly what's there. I think SWAT might have showed up for a bit. But like, we need all these game modes. It needs to be there, and we need more maps. 2 maps after waiting. What has it been? Has it been 5 months? Is that right? 4 or
Yeah,
5
I think. Yeah. It's been out for a while now. November,
months?
like maybe 6 months almost.
And I don't know if it would be easier for them to port stuff in, because you brought up legacy content. Bring us some of those old maps. Bring us Valhalla. Give us bring some of that over, with a fresh coat of paint. Because you look at Call of Duty. Call of Duty does 2 maps every season, and their seasons are faster than this. So they, in some Call of Duties launch with like 17 maps, and they only have a 3-year dev cycle. So we need maps. We need a lot of them. We need Forge mode. Co-op campaign is just the icing on top that was missing. I don't think that will make or break the game. I think it will bring back numbers, but we need Forge to come back strong, and we need maps. And that's, once we have that, I think you could see a resurgence like you saw similar to Sea of Thieves, and this big rumored battle royale, if it's actually fresh and if it actually is something that people love, that's something else that could bring back all the numbers. It needs this stuff, or it's not going to go anywhere, and it's going to continue to dip down, and Master Chief Collection will continue to shine.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Certain Affinity did announce a deeper commitment to Halo, and all the speculation is that they are working on that Battle Royale mode. There's a lot of takes on what that is actually going to be, if it's just going to be an additional game mode, if it's going to be a completely kind of separate game mode, where it's not part of any playlist or anything, or we just don't have the details yet, and everybody's just kind of guessing at it. So I feel like that was a good way to chase some players. It's definitely a new kind of concept outside of out of some of the normal game modes that they have, but it strays a little bit from that because it's massive. And they said some of the modes, some of the training of that mode is that you can play against bots, and they were talking about maybe having 100 bots, so it'd be like you against 99 bots in a survival type scenario. So it sounds pretty interesting. We did get confirmation that with Season 2 that there are going to be 2 new maps, and that's probably not going to be enough for some people. We've talked before about how maybe they would do right by bringing back some classic maps, because that's a huge draw. If you bring back any of the, some of those maps are legendary. If you bring those and upgrade them and put them in this engine, people would go bananas over it. And the fact that they haven't, maybe they've thought about it, but they haven't announced any kind of work on it, is kind of baffling, just like many of the things of the development of this game. So,
Like, give us Lockout.
Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to add. I have a friend who used to love Halo. He dove in and out of it. It's all he lived and breathed. He was sponsored for it even. He went to events in Chicago, Ohio, you name it. And he doesn't follow any real gaming related news though. So this is like a pinpoint of a casual fan, but also a hardcore fan of Halo, but casual video game in general. and he said this in the text. He's like, it's incredible how much Bungie meant to Halo. I mean, it's actually quite impressive how 343 somehow made the most prominent game fall off the face of the earth. The game isn't bad, but my goodness. And he never talks about stuff like that. So we need content, and I think it'll bring people like him back, because so far it's just like there's nothing to do, but we would love to see stuff to do.
Yeah, and I think that's like, I mean, in some ways, like Bungie era Halo, like I don't want to like completely like say, 343 is, because Master Chief, it did come around, like the Master Chief collection. But like when you think back to the Bungie era and just, I guess, the whole Xbox landscape in general, like sure, Halo 1 was like probably the most bare bones out of all of them. But like when Halo 2 came out, they made sure to do like, all right, it's basically Halo, but even more, and just tons of stuff. Then Halo 3 comes out, oh, here's even more stuff. So it's like the fan base in some ways is kind of spoiled with like having so much content, and then you go into something like Infinite many years later, and it's like, where is the game? Like even just basic modes, like Slayer wasn't there at first. It's like, okay, like I can understand maybe a very small amount of maps, but you're missing basic modes that we've had in 2002. Like what is going on? Where is it
there, right?
Yeah. Like, I think that's really what it is. It's like not so much that the game is missing content, which it is, but it's missing content from a series that was known for just having a plethora of it. Like Halo 3, I saw people play that pretty much for the entirety of the 360 lifespan. Same thing with Halo 2 and the original Xbox. People were just always on it because there was just always something going on there.
Yeah, one of those games where, it consumed a whole generation for people. Very, very true.
Yeah, and Infinite can't even do that for like a few months because people are trying to make it last, but it's just like there are 3 maps and then we're gonna get 2 more, and even with like 6 maps in it, the rotation still puts you on streets. You're like, what's going on here? Why am I always on streets? Big team battle on streets.
And I'll be honest, I was one of those people that was really trying to make it work, and I am not as harsh on the game as a lot of the purists. I still had a pretty okay time with it, and I'll jump in and I'll check out the 2 new maps. But the thing that would probably bring me back more is some more story mode. I hope that we see some expansions and downloadable content that feeds into that a little bit, because as much as I have fun with the multiplayer, the single player is probably going to be the big draw for me for sticking with Halo throughout this generation. So that's something that they haven't really addressed or mentioned either that's in development. And it seems like not much is in development with the game. And like you were kind of saying, Fortnite is, or many other games, not just Fortnite. I mean, Lego Star Wars had downloadable content ready, a week after launch, and people weren't making a big deal about that, even though it was just a character pack. But at least it shows you that they have a plan for content, and they're alive and kicking, and they're creating. And we didn't get that necessarily with 343 for a long time. But to their credit, they have been good about communicating, and they're just like, yeah, we're working on this. We hear you. We're listening. And, they're doing that part well. Acting receptive, but the action hasn't matched the words yet, so they have a lot to live up to and a lot of work to do.
And I think this is just my guess, I always thought the battle royale would never happen, but with the new rumors now, I think that's might be some of the delays, because it's Affinity has been working on it, certain Affinity, but 343 probably has a huge heavy hand in that. So I would like to see it around E3 time. Well, there is no E3, but you know what I mean. During our big Xbox
rest in peace
that they've said. I don't know if I'll ever stop saying E3. I think they drop it then, and I think you see a resurgence and a comeback to Halo, because as much as we're tired of battle royale, I think Halo has the ability to breathe some new life into the genre. Similar to how Call of Duty did it when they brought out Warzone, similar to how Fortnite did it and made it so huge to begin with. Once Fortnite took over PUBG, and then Warzone was just this new thing. Halo is an entirely different gameplay perspective that can really change how Battle Royale is played. As long as it's not generic and it sticks to its Halo roots, it could actually be really big. So hopefully that comes in June alongside the showcase, and we'll see.
Yeah, I think last week we said the bones are good. Most people agree that the gameplay is fun. It's definitely a lack of content that's been been hurting it, but taking those mechanics and putting them in, like you said, whatever they do with this battle royale mode or whatever, it has a lot of potential. Seems like it could be fun, and it seems like it might bring in some more players. So, good move on their part, but the proof will be in the pudding, as they say. So we'll see how that all shapes up toward the end there. So I promise you that is the end of the Halo talk, both the series and the game for this week's episode. Moving on to some other news this week. This is kind of out of left field. Bugsnax was announced that it's coming to Game Pass.
Yeah.
April 28th. Now, Bugsnax I am kind of half familiar with, so if you guys have any great informed takes on this, please enlighten us.
I bought it on PS5.
Awesome. So you played it.
Yeah, I play PS5 games too, guys.
Boo. No, I'm kidding.
And I liked it. I didn't actually finish it, and I can't remember why. I just never came back to it. But it was nice to play. It was cute. It was cuddly. It's not gonna light up the world like Elden Ring, but the fact that it's coming to Game Pass, absolutely perfect fit. And one of the reasons I love Game Pass, and to see that come out, it was, I had read that it was a timed exclusive, and just a week before this is announced, I was seeing people on Twitter listed as one of their big exclusives for PlayStation. I'm like, pretty sure that's timed. Surprised it hasn't come out yet, but I feel like it's gonna soon. And then boom, it did.
Yeah, a lot of people were really surprised because I was under the assumption too that it was just PlayStation exclusive. Like I didn't think it was even a whimsical fantasy that it might come to Xbox. So this was big news.
Yeah, so like if you guys enjoy a laid back experience and just not, I guess technically, there's some danger, but it's enjoyable. It's late. It's fresh, and you can just sit back, have a beer, or if you're underage, a Coke, and just have some fun with it. I know I'm going to dive and try to go after all the achievements. I'm excited to see it.
Yep, I have some really big Viva Pinata fans in the house, and I feel like this is not exactly that game, but also kind of in the same vein in some kind of small way. So I'm excited to let them rip into it, and then I'll probably end up getting hooked into it too, is usually how it goes, and totally abandon everything else that I've been trying to play right now. But I can't wait to see what happens. So I think that's April 28th. So that's wait, am I reading that right? Yeah, April 28th.
You wrote.
So 10 days away. It's just it's surprising me that it's so soon. I was thinking later in the year or something, but no, a week and a half away. We'll all be weighing in on Bugsnax. Some game updates this week. Remastered Life is Strange, the one that they delayed and finally put out. Well, they've updated it, and now there is 60 frames per second on your Xbox Series X. They also implemented a lot of fixes. There was some crashing and issues that game was having, so if you've been waiting to dive in until those fixes are live, now's your time to dive in. We also got news that the next Mass Effect game is left pre-production, which means that they're working on it. It's in early development, and I don't know what they can possibly do with Mass Effect after the trilogy and Andromeda. I know a lot of people will be excited about this just because the universe is insanely popular. We probably won't see or hear anything about this game for quite a while. They obviously have a lot of other stuff they're working on, so I assume that you guys will be excited for this and are big Mass Effect fans.
Yeah, I just to give my history of it real quick. The trilogy for me, fantastic journey. The destination, that final 10 minutes was awful. I'm not going to dive into that. People of the series, you either liked the ending or you hated it. Or you just dealt with it and moved on. Andromeda was it tried. It definitely tried, but it didn't have the same wonder as, the first three games did. And I have like over 200, 300 hours in those games, and they're terrific. I think, and I say this phrase a lot, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard that this next game will be a return to Shepard's storyline, which would put one of the endings as the canonical ending, which I believe is, for people that don't know, I'll just use the code name, the destruction ending in the original trilogy. So that's something that would pull me back in. Andromeda didn't really leave me with this sense of wanting to go back, but I would love to see a return to Shepard's story. As much as that one concluded, I would like a fresh coat of paint 10 years later, and I think if it's interesting enough, it'll really kick off.
Yeah, I kind of get that Game of Thrones vibe with Mass Effect, and it's not anything that extreme, but where like the ride was really good, the ride was really good, the ride was really good, and then it concluded, and everybody was just like, "What?" And I have not made it through Mass Effect 3 yet. I've been playing through the series very slowly, so I don't actually know the endings, but I do know that not well received and a lot of controversy about how they were written and about how everything played out. So I know you're not alone in feeling left wanting more, I think would be the general consensus there. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer to see something so beloved also tarnished at the end like that, as a lot of people would feel that way. And I know that there's probably a lot of people out there that enjoyed it as well. I can't speak to it, like I said, but I recognize trouble when I see it. In other new game news, kind of, No Man's Sky was, they teased an expansion. Are you guys No Man's Sky fans? Ivan? Mikey?
I saw. Well, we look for just for people only listening. We look because we're recording too with video, and I just saw Grim. He just shrugged his shoulders. So
that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, I was, because I really don't have much to add to with No Man's Sky, because like it's weird. Like I tried to get into it, but I played very little. Like 20 minutes tops, and I went with the survival difficulty, which probably wasn't what you're supposed to do, but basically I just kept getting hit with like temperature problems and things, and I was like, maybe I'll come back when I know some people playing it. Never found anyone playing it. Sort of like Sea of Thieves. It's like, oh, this is an awesome game. Can't wait to see people on my friends list playing it. Nobody was playing it that I knew, and I'm like, well, I ended up playing Sea of Thieves by myself because it was a little quicker to draw as far as like understanding its mechanics. But No Man's Skies, I was just like, I'm not ready for this right now. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know anyone that's playing it, so my commitment level was just not there.
I don't want to. I will echo everything you just said. And here's the thing about it: it's a game that I should love, and I know when it launched, had all kinds of problems. It was overhyped, and it seemed to be a big flop. But it's the game that they stuck with, and the developers poured their heart and soul into it, and now it's very well liked. Lots of people have been playing it. I did see some of those people commenting that it just feels like it doesn't need more content. Like it's at such a good spot that this might almost be overwhelming, especially if you're a new player. So it's nice though to see that they're still putting work into this game that they could have easily have turned their back on and been like, oops.
For me, I didn't play it initially. I ended up getting it on Steam about a little over a year later, and they had done a lot to the game. And I enjoyed it. I made it all the way to the end, made it to the center of the galaxy, only to find out, well, you're back at the rim of another galaxy. But it was good. I enjoyed it. For me, I've been waiting kind of, and that was on PC. If I was going to play on an Xbox, and I can add this one to the backlog at this point, I was waiting for more updates, something to change it, because once you do that journey, is there a lot here now to go back and play it again? And I'll find out. I might dive into this patch. It might be the next patch full of a bunch of different stuff, because you can just tell they're going to keep adding to this game. But I enjoyed that one playthrough. It's just I don't know if it's enough to bring me back in yet.
Kind of the same takes I've been seeing is that once you get through it once, it's just kind of maybe not something for everybody. That was a good enough experience for them. They felt like they had seen the whole game and they called it good, which is totally understandable when you have Lego Star Wars out there, or whatever's distracting you this week. But so we'll wait to see how that comes out and how it's received. It's a game, like I said, that I'm not playing, but I'm rooting for, just because I love to see. I'm an underdog fan. I like to see people, get knocked down and get back up. So that's it's nice to see a redemption story, and I'm very happy for them. So. Another surprise announcement this week is No More Heroes 3 is coming to Xbox, which is kind of also out of left field. The first two games never made their way to Xbox, so it's kind of surprising to see this one make it. Have you guys played No More Heroes?
What happened with me, kind of similar with the No Man's Skies thing, but more on a technical level. I was trying to play it on Switch, but wasn't a very fun port. It had some issues. It was a little, and I'm like, well, I know 1 and 2 is on Steam, so and then seeing things like Monster Hunter Stories come to Steam, I'm like, let me go for like the long play and hope that it comes to Steam. well, I wasn't expecting it to come to everything, but like now it's basically coming to everything, and it's definitely a great game. If it wasn't for the performance issues, I would have probably beaten it on Switch because the writing's great. Watching some people play it on stream, the bosses get absolutely out of control. If you like Suda games, you can't miss that. I mean, I just hope that someday we see 1 and 2 come to Xbox and things like that, because those are on Steam.
Top comments when that was announced is everybody's like, "Oh, I hope we get 1 and 2. Please bring 1 and 2." And it seems like a natural progression.
Yeah, I mean, they're just fantastic games. So if you're into that stuff, if you're into something wacky, a lot of like, I don't know, it's kind of like Deadpool like humor, if that makes any sense, like fourth wall breaks and things like that. A lot of like, I guess, awareness to certain video game mechanics. So maybe that might put people off, I guess, because it's a lot of that. But it's
so as someone who's completely new to the series, can you describe it? It's point and click. I mean, is it action? Like what is it exactly?
Yeah, it's like a hack and slash sort of thing. So it's like more of an action thing with like really weird mechanics, because like, for instance, you would have to charge the sword by like because in the game he starts like trying to shake his sword to get the beam back out, so you have to do that with the Joy-Con. Really wondering how that's going to work with like the Xbox controller, but it was just like a spoof on motion controls when it first came out, and then it became its own thing, I guess. But yeah, it's more action, I guess, if you wanted to call it that. So like basic
I think I'm getting
heavy attack.
So yeah, so it sounds like it's fun. I'll definitely be checking it out, or at least somewhat interested in it, because I know that people that have played it, they really love it. So on the heels of that, we also got news on Diablo. Diablo 3 did get that 4K patch. There was some question when it first launched if it was actually 4K, and I've seen some comparisons, and the models are a lot cleaner since the patch. This is a really old game at this point, and it's debatable if it was ever really that amazing looking to begin with. Sure, it was styled great, just like all Blizzard games, but it wasn't really super high res or pushing pixels, as I like to say. So it was nice to see that game finally get the patch, which has been available on the One X for for years now, it feels like. So this game is supposedly, presumably coming under the Xbox banner, so we want to see those games up to snuff on their flagship system. In addition to that, we got a little bit of Diablo 4 news, and this is actually a little bit old now, but they are continuing to work on it. It's been delayed, as many of you know, but they mentioned that the world is going to be gigantic, 150 full dungeons, and we're not talking about, the caves that you sometimes wander into, and they have like a floor or two. Like, these are supposed to be full, like, explorable dungeons with bosses, and everything I've seen about this game has me excited for it. I know a lot of people have really fallen off the Blizzard bandwagon, and rightfully so. Not just the fact that the quality in their games has subjectively dropped, but also all the issues going on in the workplace there. Like I said, I like to see people get knocked down and pick themselves back up. I really hope that Blizzard can kind of follow that path. They have a lot of things to sort out, a lot of stuff that may be uncomfortable buying and enjoying their games for a while, and I need to see action and progression to give me a clear conscience when I throw some money their way. So I'm excited for Diablo 4 though, and some of the stuff they're working on, especially now that they're might be part of the Xbox camp, so to speak. You guys, if Diablo 4 came out tomorrow, would you buy it? Is that something you're interested in?
If I shouted Diablo right now, my fiance would come in screaming. She loves Diablo.
I didn't know why. I was like,
yeah, she loves it.
Oh, good.
She's not a hardcore gamer or anything, but she actually went through Diablo 3 and actually got to a level 70 hardcore character.
Ooh, that's nail biting.
She did it, and that was like when I met her and she told me that, I'm like, all right, well, here's the ring.
Yeah, right. Instant 10 points at least.
Yeah, I like Diablo 3 for what it was. I played it on Steam back in 2012 when it came out. And I just hope that 4 is a strong departure from having to replay the story 5 times. Because, while 3 now is this vast game of these dungeons, they're on season 26, I think. Right. They've added so much to the game. A lot of that I hope is there for Diablo 4, and hopefully this open world alleviates that, because back when the original Diablo 3 came out, and this is kind of what killed it for so many people, it was everything was super linear, story kind of felt weak, and it was quick. You'd get through it, and then your only choice was to play it again to level your character to max. And then it was like, well, what do you do now?
Yeah. Like one playthrough, you'd be like level 30, like, and that felt a little weird.
And the PvP felt hamstrung. It wasn't the experience that people got with Diablo 2. Diablo 2 was just in many aspects so much better than what was launched with Diablo 3. So Diablo 4 it feels like a continuation of Diablo 2 every time I see stuff from it, especially now going back and playing Diablo 2 at an older age, because I bought the remaster and played it. Um, Diablo 4, I'm excited for. It seems to be a return to glory. And hearing that there's 150 plus dungeons isn't what totally gets me excited, but like knowing that they're excited and they're passionate about getting this right is what fuels me to want to play it. Hearing
Another
that gets me excited.
Yeah, it's another one of those delays where I was just like, that's okay. Like, I'm sure I'm excited for it, but I can wait. I want to see you pour everything you have into it. So it's the great game that I expect. Absolutely one of my favorite franchises too. I call it the Diablo zone. I love just turning off all the lights and melting into the couch for a little bit, and after a while you just kind of get into a trance. I like to play a wizard, so there's laser beams and colors popping all over, and after like an hour or two I'm drooling. I look like a zombie, and I love it. I absolutely love that, and I don't even care. I'm like, if somebody walks into the room and sees me, I'm just like, whatever. Blah, so I can't wait to hopefully see what 4 offers. Kind of in the same Blizzard wheelhouse of news, there was some speculation this week that Blizzard released a survey about some of their future games and practices. In that survey was a question about NFTs. Boo! Everybody hisses, and some people like NFTs, but gamers usually have a lot of disdain for them. So almost as soon as that story came out, Blizzard president Mikey Berra came out, and Microsoft mole. If anybody knows his story, he worked for Microsoft for years and got shipped over to Blizzard, and then like a year later, Microsoft buys Blizzard. But anyways, he came out to shut that down and said no NFTs are planned. Doesn't mean that they're not sniffing around, but one thing that I kind of found kind of interesting on this, speaking of the early days of Diablo 3, is they had the real money auction house in that game, and that to me is kind of edging the territory of NFT concept. With weapons or items with an assigned value, and if they could be unique, and that failed miserably. It almost tanked Diablo 3. They had to go back and totally rework everything and revamp that game based on what a fantastic failure that was. So I would find it absolutely shocking if they wanted to go back into that territory after having to almost crush one of their flagship titles. So I was glad to see him come out right away and kind of shut that down. I mean, how are you? I find this weird. Like, I don't think anybody's going to be excited about NFTs in games, are they? Like, would that make you want to buy a game more? Would that like bring you into it?
I mean, my feelings on NFTs are this, and I'm in Bitcoin, I'm in Ethereum, I've done mining before. When I hear the word NFT, my favorite news story is that the guy that bought the Jack Dorsey original tweet NFT for 2.9 million is probably going to lose 2.9 million. So
because it's just a wild gamble, right? Because nobody knows what we're doing with this technology yet or how it's going to work. And even crypto is still a little bit in that phase, but obviously it's a lot more sustainable and accepted. But NFTs are definitely like Wild West times. And I wouldn't want my money wrapped into gaming or any other way right now. And like I said, I know it has its proponents, but I don't know what this big push is to merge that into gaming so quickly. If anybody's going to do it first, it's going to be mobile games, and let them be the test field for that. Don't bring that into my console or my flagship titles. I'm not ready for it yet.
Yeah, I think with NFTs, I think we're finally seeing like the internet sort of like, I guess, resist like change, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't mean that in the sense that like, like we're getting to a point where we're not going to have any more evolving internet. But like when it came to like the horse armor, right? People were like, "Oh, that's really silly. Why would you get horse armor in Oblivion?" Blah blah blah. But people bought it. Like yeah, there was people who might have like made jokes about, but for the overall thing, it's like, well, you pay and you get horse armor. There you go. But like this is the first time I've seen almost like unanimously, aside from the people who are trying to make money off it, are like against it. They're like, what? No, who wants this? Like, let's like for instance, the person who spent 2 mil like is probably gonna lose it because no one's like buying into it. They're like, no, we really don't want this. So it's interesting to see that we're at a point where we do want some things to remain the same with the internet, where a lot of other trends were like, oh yeah, let's jump right on board with that. That's so cool. Oh man, my game can last forever. Oh, a game is broken, but we can patch it real quick. Nice. Like everything else has been so like welcoming, but it's like this has been really rough to see. Even Bitcoin was welcoming. Like people were like, oh yeah, Bitcoin, that's cool. Like
Right. That seems all right. But yeah, this one has just been just scorned. Like I feel like the approval rating, if that was a thing on NFTs and especially in gaming, is probably like 10% or something. Like I'll see the odd comment where someone's like, "Oh, they just haven't found a cool way to bring them in yet. Wait until they do." And I'm just not sure if that's necessarily the way it's going to play out.
Yeah, like he said, everybody's been so on board with all these new technologies. You see, to talk about apps like Snapchat, boom, TikTok, boom, Facebook, boom, MySpace before all that for people that remember that, boom. I haven't seen such a big failure of something coming into the market that just everyone's kind of like, what is this? And then
Why?
the next phase was, oh my God, I hate it.
Yeah, why do we need it? Who wants it? Who made it? And those are my takes too. But like I said, I guess maybe in the future I'll be eating all these words and finally see the light. But that future is not now.
Curmudgeons we are.
Yes, I'm getting old, so I'm not ready for this newfangled tech. Bethesda actually announced this week, or they announced a little while ago, that they're going to be shutting down Bethesda.net, where a lot of people have purchased their games for PC play. For users concerned about what's going to happen to their games, they announced that they're going to transfer them all to Steam. Pro-consumer move. They had to make that right, and the way they were doing it, I was actually surprised to see them go to Steam, though. But it seems like Microsoft and Steam have been playing cozy, and looks like that's going to continue. Next gen version 3. Oh, let me try that again. I'm reading from our news notes right now. But the next gen version of The Witcher has moved in-house. First, we've heard that it was delayed, and we knew that was coming. And then this week, we heard that they're actually changing who's in charge of developing the next gen upgrade of The Witcher. It was previously handled by Saber Interactive, and there's been some speculation about why they made this move. I think the most probable explanation so far is that Saber has some teams that are stationed around the world, but in the Ukraine-Russian area, where obviously there's a conflict going on right now, and it feels like they, for whatever reason, they felt the need to halt that and give them some time to regroup, and they're going to take it on themselves. But they did mention that it doesn't mean the game's in development hell. They have a plan, and other than the already announced delay, this shouldn't impact the final product. So I know a lot of people are really excited for that. Would you guys play through The Witcher 3 again, or are you just kind of past that at this point? Would a next gen upgrade entice you to give it another spin?
I know I'm already planning on doing it. For me, I played through Witcher 3 with some mods on PC. Nice things like being able to upgrade your armor more often, and removing some of the level unlocks, and also doing a bunch of the texture mods on PC. So I'm excited to see that on Xbox, and I'll play through it again, and I'll actually do all the achievements, because that's where I started. It's just not where I finished my playthrough. And I take your time, you know. Don't rush it. Don't come out with something full of bugs. CD Projekt is, they have a history now that they need to be careful with. They don't want to have another slip up, so that when Witcher 4 finally comes along, people will just want to pre-order again. So take your time. We loved Witcher 3, and I'm going to jump back into it. I don't know. How about you, Grim?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna hop back into it because even with like Cyberpunk, I think the idea of just seeing these newer systems get kind of pushed to where they should be it's just a nice time, with the TV and everything. It's a nice experience. I mostly played The Witcher on PC as well, so I didn't do the mod stuff, but I would just like to see it touched up a bit. I'll be down to do it again. I actually never finished my first playthrough, so it gives me a reason to kind of go back and wrap it up, because basically what happened was the show came out when I was playing through it, so then I started watching the show and I just never got back to it. And I should maybe I'll mod it to where I see Henry Cavill when I play, and get really into the show again.
I'm sure that mod probably exists. Yeah, somebody out there has done that. I guarantee it.
It has been done, yes.
That's fantastic. So I too will be curious enough to at least take it for the spin, and I'm kind of having the same experience of Diablo 3 right now. It was not much of an upgrade, but there is a brand new season that started, and for all the knocks against Diablo 3 being short, I think the season formula is really great. You can take 5 seasons off, 2 seasons off, and come back in, roll the character, max them out, and call it good. And then I will usually take another few seasons off, but it's that kind of content's engaging for me. So there was some news this week for PC gamers, and these are going to be for non-Game Pass subscribers. So New Year's is only, but if you played Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, or Age of Empires 4 before February 28th, you can go get 3 months of PC Game Pass for free. So if you are not a Game Pass subscriber yet, and I know there are lots of reasons not to be, it's a great opportunity to play some fun games for 3 months for totally free. So if you want details on that offer, you can check out the post in the subreddit. We'll leave some notes on this post too, and I'll drop a link for you so you can go claim your free game time. I honestly feel like it would be great if Microsoft would offer some kind of friends and family trial where you can give 2 weeks or a month to gamers who haven't tried it yet. And I know there's all kinds of offers out there where you can start for $1 and the conversion trick still works, but sometimes that's not as impactful as me going up to a buddy and being like, hey, here's a code. Why don't you try this out for a couple months and see what happens? And secretly, I know what's going to happen, because I know what happens to most of us is after 2 months of having that library at your fingertips, it gets your hooks into you. So it would be great to see them expand their marketing a little.
You're right. What I did with this deal, actually, once I heard about it, I had a friend who he didn't want to buy into it. He just thought it wasn't worth it. And I told him about it because he played Halo Infinite. So he signed up, and I think he's now playing Guardians of the Galaxy. So
right. It gets you.
Yep.
So that's I've described it many times on this show where I didn't think Game Pass was going to be for me at first, and even the first month I was like, well, that's kind of cool, but the longer you have it, the more integral it comes to your gaming lifestyle, especially if you're playing on Xbox as your primary console. It's just such a no-brainer. They just need to keep pushing it, and it's doing fine. Obviously, it's doing very well, actually, but any way to get that in more hands and more eyeballs, it seems to be Xbox's game plan, and this just seems like a natural progression of that is give us a way to share it. Even if it's just a 2-week trial type thing for new users that we can kick over to a buddy or that they can sign up for and we can sell them on it. That would be a great move. So that's it, guys. We have toured the news. We have talked Halo. Is there anything that you guys wanted to close with this week? Anything that you'll be playing or wanted to kind of talk about before next week?
I know I gave Halo the show this week a 5, but I'm actually, after seeing the preview, I'm actually pretty psyched for the next episode. I hope it's a return to the action that we want, especially from that ending clip that we saw. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope we get to see Master Chief kick some freaking butt. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go back to enjoying the ride that is Cyberpunk, and that'll be my week.
That sounds like a terrific plan to me. I will be battling through Lego, I think, Star Wars. I'm now through the first 3 episodes, and I feel like that I have momentum, which is kind of a rare thing for me with games. So I usually, because of Game Pass, I'm almost like an ADD gamer. I'm just all over the place. I'm going to play an hour of this, 2 hours of that, and when I have some tailwind behind me, I like to polish and play through a game. So Walking Simulator, here I come for the week. And Ivan, what will you be playing this week?
Honestly, I think I might grab some of those Lego games that are on sale because like playing Lego Star Wars, it sort of wants me to like go back and play some of the ones I missed in the 360 era. Because I only played Lego Star Wars, but there's like Lego Indiana Jones, Lego Undercover, and all that stuff, and they're all like really cheap right now. So I might grab those before that sale ends. I think we only have like a few days left, so I might like see how far I could get into that endeavor before I lose my mind.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's what
yeah,
they want you to do. It's working.
Yup, they got you. I feel like after a while the formula does get a little tired, but it's if you're into the franchises that those games are portraying, like there's the Hobbit game, and I don't even necessarily like the Hobbit movies as much as I like Lord of the Rings. Beside the point, though, the game's atmosphere is great. It plays all that music that you're familiar with. You start off in a little Hobbit house as Bilbo, and it gives me all those feel goods that I get from the movies, and it's just nice to revisit those familiar spaces, even if it is in the land of Lego. So to wrap things up, we do have a Discord server, and Ivan Grimprovise is a mod over there. He can tell us just a little bit about that before we go.
Yeah, basically it's the Xbox community Discord, and we typically have like different type of gaming nights, music event nights. Mostly it's just a place for people to chat, talk about Xbox. So if you like the idea of Reddit, but you also want quick replies, Discord's usually a spot for that. And I've even seen voice chat get more popular now over there, which is really nice.
Yeah, I know that they've been talking about maybe having some of their own live audio shows, and I'm a really big fan of this format. We love to do it on the subreddits and Reddit Talk, of course, but I also visit Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse, and I would be just as happy to join over there and listen to you guys chat about some of the game news and stuff for the week too. So it's a really cool and good community over there. And you made the point about the quick replies. One thing I wanted to highlight is that we don't allow tech posts either on the Series X sub or over on Xbox One. There's a couple different solutions we have in place. There's a tech thread and a subreddit. And the reason we don't allow those posts is because they're really of limited interest. They're repeated a lot. We get the same questions every other day. And we just found it better to house them in a place that kind of keeps them all together. So the people that like to help, they can visit and get a bunch of them at once. And it still is not really the best format. I think Discord makes a really great format for if you have a quick question, and you want to get some help right away. Well, come and check out the Discord community, and they have, I think, 13,000 members over there. It's always really active, and people will. I've seen so many people get their problems solved over there in like 5 seconds. They ask something, and somebody's just like, "Oh, you need to do this," and meanwhile they'll make a post on Reddit and get no responses for 3 hours, and I'm just like, it's just not the best format for that kind of posting. So it's just one of the many reasons that the Discord community is awesome, and a good reason to visit over there. So I can't wait to see where they go with some of the things they're doing. So now that I've talked my voice out almost here, I think we can wrap up today's show, and we'll see you all next week. We are planning to do our regular show times, at least for Saturday. We're still kind of working on the Halo show. We might have to do a combo episode again, but we will be back here Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern next week. Mikey will share some more thoughts on Cyberpunk. Ivan's going to share all the Lego reviews because he's going to play all of them, I'm sure. And I will tell you if I make it through at least the next 3 episodes of the Skywalker saga. So until then, thank you all for joining us. Thanks for those that listen on YouTube and Spotify and everywhere else that you've been finding us. We really appreciate all the support that we've gotten so far, and we love doing these. So everybody have a great week, and we will see you a little bit later.
Adios, everyone.
Yep. Have a good one, everybody.
Oh